You talk to me for 15 seconds at the outside, and you know that I stutter. You can talk to Chris for, months on end, and you wouldn't know that he stutters.
My name is Nick. White, and I stutter.
Well, this is very awkward. Hello. My name is Rob. I've stuttered since I was speaking. I'm now working on a master's in speech pathology, and I'm here to this is how it feels when you're stuttering. It's very awkward.
There are some people at work who don't know anything about stuttering. When I stutter, they get all, they get like that. So I just go, I just don't want to, I don't want them to react in this situation.
I've missed out on being close with a lot of family, with a lot of my family members, because I won't call them, because they don't know my voice right off the bat. I've missed out on a lot of friendships because I'll get people's numbers and I won't call them.
Speech, along with self-awareness, is the characteristic that most distinguishes us from animals. With words and speech, we are able to recall the past, to describe the present, and imagine the future. For the 1% of the world's population who stutter, the inability to communicate easily is inevitably to feel diminished as a human being.
A lot of times I didn't even feel human. I didn't feel like I even belonged in the same category. I just felt like it was everybody else and me. I didn't run with the crowd. I didn't fit in. No matter what happened, I didn't fit in, because every time I spoke, it isolated me.
When I was in high school and university, my stuttering was a lot more severe than it is now. I avoided classroom presentations, seminars, and when I was called on to speak in class, I often gave the teachers the wrong answers, even though I knew the right answers. I did this because very often I could say the wrong answers more fluently than the right answers. So I preferred to appear stupid or ignorant rather than show that I stuttered.
Because I was just quiet and shy and sort of the wallflower, I was just picked on in school. It was physical and it was verbal. The teachers used to find me on the playground floor, just beaten up. And I never went home and told my parents, because my parents didn't believe that I had a stammer. I remember just wanting to end it all, so I did actually attempt suicide when I was 14, but luckily didn't manage to do it.
My name is John Paskievich. I'm a documentary filmmaker living in Winnipeg, Canada, and I stutter. But I don't stutter all the time. I don't, for example, stutter when I read a prepared text, which is why I'm able to narrate my own films. Other stutterers, however, find reading out loud very difficult. That is just one example of the bewildering nature of stuttering. I was motivated to make this film on stuttering while I was doing a cross-country tour of my previous films. I did the usual TV and radio interviews to publicize my work. While some of my interviews went well, others did not.
Let me ask you one more question. What was the purpose of making this film?
Okay, I wanted to make this film in order to bear witness.
Why did you make this movie?
I wanted to do it for a number of reasons.
Okay, so focus and away we go. Or maybe don't focus, whatever works for you. But why did you make this film?
I made this film in order to bear witness to my parents' stories in the Ukraine.
Let's stop there and say that phrase again. I made this movie, okay? I made this movie to bear generation. Okay.
Okay.
Why did you make this movie?
I made this movie to okay.
No, it's okay. So take a deep breath and we'll give her a try again one more time. John, why did you make this movie?
Oh, hi there. Thanks.
These interviews left me emotionally drained. Why, I wondered, is there such a stigma about showing stuttering on television and the radio? All sorts of people appear in the media. Obese people, people in wheelchairs, people with all types of accents.
What kind of work do you do?
Well, I make documentary films.
Documentary films?
Yeah, I was showing some of my work in...
But you almost never see or hear someone who stutters. What, I wonder, would happen if I was just allowed to stutter? The answer, of course, is that nothing much would occur, except that my interviewer and I would feel more at ease, my stuttering would decrease as a consequence, and the audience would be exposed to one aspect of the human condition with which they might not be familiar. Everybody wins. But, alas, that is not the way of TV. Like most people who stutter, I grew up feeling that I was the only one in the world who stuttered. I had no idea how to seek help, and no one offered me any real guidance. When I got the notion to do this film, I wondered where I would get my information on stuttering, and how would I find subjects. I went on the internet, typed in stuttering, and found an array of websites, listservs, chat groups, and self-help groups I never knew existed. The largest self-help group in the world is the American-based National Stuttering Association. Each year, hundreds of stutterers from the USA, Canada, and elsewhere gather to exchange information and experiences, and to reaffirm the motto, if you stutter, you're not alone. And I wasn't, as I took my seat on the plane to Nashville.
Is this your first NSA convention?
No, I think it's my 11th convention. Yeah, I'm a chapter leader for the National Stuttering Association and a regional coordinator too.
Where is your chapter located?
We meet downtown Minneapolis.
Oh, yeah.
So, and we meet once a month, and we've been meeting for about maybe 7 or 8 years or something like that now.
After decades of feeling isolated, I found a community that doesn't accept me in spite of my stuttering, but rather embraces me because of it. I feel like Alice, who stepped through the looking glass. For the first time in my life, I'm in a place where stuttering is not only allowed, but it's encouraged.
All this right here is showing is that you don't have to hide it in here. You can let it out. We stutter, we do. So like is how we come. I got some more for you though. We ain't done yet.
I'm gonna do a rap, okay? Yeah, it won't be the best, and it won't be the worst. my name's Jackson. This is my second time. I was there in Anaheim, and I had a good time. This is the NSA, not the NBA. I had a blast, so let's do it again in Baltimore.
For the 4 days of the conference, people are encouraged to release themselves from the shame and frustration that surrounds stuttering.
I can also remember when a friend's mom or dad would be driving me home after playing at their house. I would agonize during the whole car ride about saying the words, "thank you," and how rude it would seem if I was not able to get those words out.
We have a bunch of family videos, family movies, and when I was older, I'd watch them, and then you could hear my blocks and everything. And what I did, which I shouldn't have, is I recorded over every time you could hear me block. So when my mom watches the family video, all of a sudden there's, you know, family ties, there's our family, and it's just, my mom didn't know what the heck was going on.
On the closing night of the conference, we danced like there was no tomorrow. Like Cinderella at the ball, we knew that our carriages would soon turn back into pumpkins.
Personally, I feel very sad. Very, very sad. I think there's just as many tears on the Sunday when we're all leaving as there is laughter during the week.
It is a very sad time. I go back home and the people are just not the same.
Here, when someone gives me a touch on the arm or says a kind word, it means more here than it does out in the real world. Here, there is meaning to even a small pat on the back or a kind word or whatever.
Like a beaver down over there.
Is that the beaver then? Or is it that's just a bunch of logs and trees that piled up?
It was quite the experience. There were 600 people, and almost all 600 people stuttered.
Did you stutter more?
Yeah, I actually stuttered more. It surprised me. For the first time in my life, I just let go. I cope with my stuttering through denial. Like, whatever happens in the course of a day doesn't hurt me. I got the notion that I have a thick hide, but in fact, I don't. I have stored away a lot of pain.
Over your life?
Oh yeah. I've stored away a lot of pain. And being at the conference and just talking to all those people, and you know, hearing their pain, just brought back everything, you know, school and growing up and applying for jobs, and see, just us thinking about that is emotional, and I've never been emotional about my stuttering with you.
No.
But it bothers me, and has bothered me for a long time, and it'll continue to bother me. But I have to learn other coping ways.
Yes.
You know, because it's not good to carry all that pain inside.
I was in total denial of its impact on me. I had steeled myself. I had hardened myself that it didn't matter at all. I could be cruel. I could stand up and be cruel. I had pals. I had friends. As long as I didn't talk or have to speak, I was okay.
John? Are they boning up on your stuttering?
Yes. This is Stuttering and Integration of Contemporary Therapies. I got self-therapy for the stutterer, condominiums and stuttering. I got these excellent books that I picked up at the conference. One of the brothers who set up Napa Auto Parts, he stuttered himself. So he set up a foundation. And the foundation publishes all these books. And it's great. And there's a whole passel of videos. I'm kind of excited about all this stuff. See? And the books go with the videos. When I was a young guy, I never heard of this. There weren't any videos. I remember going to the library once, and I found some kind of dusty book on stuttering, which never made any sense. It had to do with practicing blowing paper across the table.
Did you try it?
I tried it. I tried even Demosthenes.
To overcome his stuttering, we're told that Demosthenes put pebbles in his mouth and practiced projecting his voice over the roar of the ocean waves. You, Athenians, have a double contest to support. Like others, you have your open enemies, but you have enemies still more dangerous and alarming.
Demosthenes, in spite of his stutter, became the greatest orator of the ancient world. The biblical Moses stuttered. Why God, in his infinite wisdom, would pick a stutterer to lead the Jews in search of the promised land is a question debated by scholars to this very day. Other notables who stuttered include the Roman Emperor Claudius, the English scientist Isaac Newton, and the American actor James Earl Jones, who perhaps is best known as the voice of CNN and Darth Vader. Marilyn Monroe developed her breathy way of speaking not to be sexy, but as a way of managing a mild stutter. During the Second World War, Britain was led by two stutterers, Prime Minister Winston Churchill.
For I am sure you would not wish me not to state the facts as I see them.
And King George VI.
The fact that the plans were being prepared at a time when this country was still under the cloud of a long industrial depression.
So is there any type of cure, permanent cure for stuttering? Or?
No, there's no cure for stuttering because there's no known cause for stuttering. But over years, there have been all kinds of so-called cures, but they were all basically quack cures because nobody knew what the cause was. So they had little towels on the tongue with special ointments, you know.
Yeah.
And then hot wine and spices were recommended. But what happened in the 1850s, there was a mania that was started by a guy called Diefenbach. He had this enthusiasm for cutting out the triangles, for cutting out triangles in stutterers' tongues, right on the base. So he would, you know, take an incision like this, and, you know, there you go. The stutter is cured.
Sounds like stutterers have lived a pretty uncomfortable life throughout history.
Yeah, yeah. You know, Diefenbach's method probably worked because the stutterer would hardly say anything. People would say, how's it going?
Good morning, Stuart. How are you this morning?
Stuttering remains an enigma.
I've got some crickets for you.
Even the most severe stutterers can be fluent when they feel they won't be judged.
You aren't very hungry this morning.
For instance, when they talk to small children or animals.
How are you speaking with pets and young kids, Chris?
Generally fine with animals. Young kids, not completely fluent.
Hello, Daisy. What are you finding under there? What's in the grass? Having a good sniff around in the grass.
But some even stutter with their pets.
Earl over there. Go chase Earl the squirrel. He's out there. Lucy, you want a treat? Lucy dog, yum yum. Let's go. Let's go.
So I even find I'm ending up using covert techniques with a pet, which is probably the saddest thing you can possibly think of.
I wonder, is there another hedgehog in there? She's a very curious little hog.
As long as the attitudes and the emotions and the belief systems regarding communication are consistent with a stuttering mentality, then further therapy is indicated.
Like 80% of the stuttering population in North America, I've never received therapy for my speech.
What is this stuttering mentality? Well, he is...
Good speech therapy for stuttering is not readily available. I live in a city of some 700,000 people, but to get decent therapy, I would have to travel hundreds of miles.
There are 3 steps to the full breath target. So you inhale...
The standard therapy for stuttering is called fluency shaping. The goal is to eliminate stuttering by reconstructing from the ground floor up the mechanics of fluent speech.
Calm. My name is
Beginning with deliberate, slow-motion speech, stutterers rebuild their ability to properly articulate sounds, then syllables, then words, and then sentences.
Is Jenny Devlin.
My name is John Paskievich. I live in Winnipeg, Canada. I would like a ticket to Toronto. Toronto. Can I have a transfer, please? Transfer. Trip. While fluency shaping teaches stutterers to speak more fluently, another form of therapy called stuttering modification teaches the stutterer how to stutter more fluently. Devised in the 1940s by Charles Van Riper, who was a severe stutterer for most of his life, stuttering modification's goal is to get the stutterer to reveal his stuttering and then modify it so that it becomes more acceptable.
By having him explore what he does when he stutters and how he feels when he stutters, to analyze it, to catalog it, to confront it in detail. Now, this is kind of painful. He has not done anything in the past except to run away from it. And now he will have to touch the untouchable and to contemplate the unspeakable. As a result, I have given him an assignment. He was
Confronting the anxiety and avoidance that so often accompanies stuttering is the hallmark of Van Riper therapy.
This is the first part of therapy. We start by exploring the things that we have to change.
It was mainly the main situations are the situations that I stutter most in at this particular time.
I've decided to begin a program of self-therapy using a combination of fluency shaping and stuttering modification. My first step, according to Van Riper, is to begin advertising and exposing that thing which has filled my life with so much fear, shame, and self-loathing. What can you tell me about stuttering?
It's crazy. It's funny. Yeah.
Yeah?
That's funny. I'm sorry. I know that was funny.
What's funny about stuttering?
The fact that you're doing it.
Yeah. What do you think causes stuttering?
I don't know. Probably nervousness.
Do you naturally stutter, or was that just...
Just what?
Like when you asked me, what do you know about stuttering, you stuttered.
Yeah.
Was that... I thought it might have been a bad joke for a second there.
No, I stuttered, yeah. It's the real thing. I'm looking for the reason. Why people stutter. What causes stuttering?
That's a good one. If I knew that, I could cure stuttering.
Some Chinese also will think that is a kind of a punishment. Maybe you, or maybe your parents did something wrong in your first life, okay?
Here's the psychoanalytic take on stuttering. It's an oral fixation. You probably suspected this, but I have a Oedipal fixation, and I'm stuck at the sucking at my mother's breast stage. The anxiety in stammerers when they attempt or prepare to speak is not due to anticipation or to anxiety over a specific situation, but is caused by the fear of the ego being overwhelmed by the all-powerful autoeroticism. He reacts to the original oral binding of the mouth through a repetition compulsion localized in the speech mechanism, that is the tongue, lip, and jaw movements of the original physiological nursing mechanism. So when I stutter, I really want to nurse at my mother's breast.
During the 20th century, a host of psychological theories tried to explain the cause of stuttering. The most popular theory stated that stuttering is caused by parents, particularly mothers, who are overly critical of their child's normal but imperfect speech.
You used to pinch me, remember? At the post office? You used to say, "Why are you so nervous?"
Yeah, because you make me nervous. I didn't know what was happening.
You didn't know what was happening.
А звідки дитина починаєш?
Ніхто не знає, for sure.
Baby, right, родилася. Потім something happened.
Що ви думали?
Що я думала? Я думала, something happened to me, не знаю що.
How did you feel?
Terrible.
Не переживай, то не є ваша вина. There is no proof that parental behavior can cause children to stutter, but entire generations of mothers were made to feel that they were responsible.
Glory be to God for dapple things. for skies of couple color as a brinded cow.
For most people, speech is effortless and automatic, but it's the most complicated of human behaviors.
Fresh fire coal chestnut falls.
It takes over 100 muscles and millions of neurons to utter a simple sentence.
And pierced.
My therapy requires that I become conscious of what I am doing when I speak.
And all trades their gear and tackle and trim.
We're going inside that room, and that's the MRI room.
Researchers today are looking for a possible neurological explanation for stuttering. They hope to find a glitch in the brain that disrupts the flow of nerve impulses to the muscles that control speech.
What's quite interesting is that when we look at the right side of the brain, there is a large level of activation here in the right hemisphere. That sensory motor area, you know, the area that's important for the control of your movements. And that's something we often find in people who stutter, is that they have much more bilateral activation, meaning that both sides of the brain are active at the same time. And again, what you can see is that lateral frontal activation that is highly activated in you is very heavily involved in the control of movements, the preparation of movements.
Are we measuring cause or effect?
That's the big question.
While the cause of stuttering remains a mystery, we do know that onset generally occurs between the ages 2 and 4.
Look what I found. What do you think this is right there?
A ladybug.
A ladybug.
A ladybug, ladybug.
A ladybug, ladybug. How many spots?
All children stumble when they're learning to speak.
3, 5
But for 5% of children, this disfluency is real stuttering.
The ladybug became a leggy bug.
A leggy
Bug. So how you been?
Most of these children recover
I
spontaneously.
haven't seen you for a long time.
The others can be greatly helped if they receive proper therapy before they start school.
When I first saw him for the assessment, his speech was very severe. He was basically speaking in word and short phrase segments. At that point, he was so impacted by it. One of his characteristics was complete stoppage with wide mouth opening and head movements.
What's your favorite thing to watch on TV?
It's an approach that is based on training the parents to give the children feedback. So the parents are trained to observe their child's speech, discriminate between fluent speech and non-fluent speech, and when the child has fluent speech, then the parents immediately give them positive feedback.
Yeah.
Good job. And I want to know, what should we do when you say something really smooth?
Do it like that.
Do that?
You mean like this?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you say something smooth, I'll get your dad to do that, okay?
Maybe we can put a lot of grass out.
Okay, Willem, that was really good, smooth talking. The consequences are completely delightful, and I'm very, very proud of him. And I think it's really great what they do, teach the parents to do that work, because really, whether he's in therapy or not, or whatever happens, we have the tools to work with him if we need to. And that's really, really great to know that you have the resource and that it's so simple.
Nathaniel was in with a group of children playing out on the front steps of my house. And just the look and the expression on his face as all the kids are interacting with each other, he just had his hand on his face and held his toy. And for the whole maybe hour that they were outside, he never said a word. And his personality, where I could see what his personality was, in the home, but to see him around other children just be a totally different child, just quiet and not wanting to participate, just was very difficult, and it really damaged his spirit and his personality and the child that he was.
So, have you got friends in grade 1?
Yes.
Oh, excellent. Who's your best friend?
Christian. He plays with me a lot.
Yeah? What do you like about baseball?
Nathaniel was very severe when he was first assessed, and just saying one word was very draining for him.
The people had get the new cars.
He went for 2.5 years. Most people were like 6 months to a year or something. I can't remember exactly, but it was considerably less. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It did take a little bit longer to treat Nathaniel.
Why did the lady throw the butter out the window?
Why did the lady throw the butter out the window?
Because she wanted to see a butterfly.
My own onset came relatively late, at age 8. I began stuttering over there, in this brick building. That was my elementary school, Our Lady of Mount Royal School. I was sitting at a desk, and my teacher was over my left shoulder. And I was reading, everything was going along well, and then I started blocking. I couldn't say the words. And my teacher asked me what the matter was. And I said, I don't know, I can't say the words. And then I looked up at him, and I still remember his expression of disappointment. That day, a curtain descended that would separate me from my fluent friends.
I asked you, Billy, to do a drawing that might show how you feel about stuttering. Did you do one? What do you see there, Billy?
Glass wall. I'm on one side, my friend's on the other, and I can't speak to him because of the wall. Like, I can see him. I can't talk to him. Maybe he could hear me, like, faintly. I was like, I hear him, but he can't hear me.
Well, I follow that perfectly.
Stuttering separates the person who stutters from his listeners, but it also divides the stutterer from himself.
I couldn't believe it. Yeah. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it.
I hate seeing myself stutter. It's like watching myself devolve to the level of a chimpanzee.
All right, let's give this take a deep breath.
But I have to embrace and make friends with my stuttering self.
Why did you make this movie?
I have to, as Charles Van Riper said, kiss the dragon, touch the untouchable. It's not easy.
My generation of talking about my generation in Canada. A lot has been
Let's
done.
stop there and say that phrase again. I made this movie, okay?
Come on, Johnny. You could do it.
I can try.
Okay. Why did you make this?
I would have the blinking, and you know the head would go back, or I'd stomp my feet to get the word out, or the mouth would do various things, and then the tongue would as well. It's not only how I sound, but how I appeared when I was just fluent that I didn't want anyone to see, because I hated it, and I felt they would be the same, and they wouldn't want to be my friend.
My name is
John.
By recreating my stuttering, I'm beginning to realize that so much of my stuttering is something I do rather than something that just happens to me.
Live, not why is my tongue sticking out? Making the L sound in the back of my throat, which is all wrong. It's live. I live in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada.
So many of my behaviors, like head jerking, rapid speech, shallow breathing, are just misguided attempts to avoid and escape stuttering.
My name is John Paskievich, and I live in Winnipeg, Canada.
These avoidances are fueled by a fear of being rejected or mocked by whoever is listening. Every fall, I dreaded my first day of school because I would have to introduce myself to a whole new class.
My name's My name's Evan Ferris. And I live in Winnipeg. I can't do it.
I just want to say that what I asked you to do is the hardest thing for any stutterer to do, especially for a kid, because we're always being asked to introduce yourself, and don't feel bad about it, even though you're allowed to feel bad about it. But I've cried about that as a child too.
I often think, what are they thinking of me? Well, and I'm giving my speech. Where is Lysander and fair Hermia? One I'll slay, the other slayeth me. Thou toldest me they were stolen unto this wood, and here I am. Well, my classmates and my friends, they were always very understanding and supportive. It's just some of the people that I didn't know too well. They would sometimes tease me. They'd say stuff like, "Oh, how come you talk that way? Stop talking like that," and that kind of stuff.
It was comments like these, being called Stuttermouth and Machine Gun Paskievich, that made me avoid speaking in class.
Oh, that was a bad pass.
However, sports provided a circle of good friends for whom stuttering wasn't an issue.
You gotta go farther out, eh? Down, sit, huck one.
But for many children who stutter, school can be a nightmare.
The kids were very cruel, extremely cruel. And I was always an outcast.
Have any kids given you a hard time in school, Billy?
Maybe I feel like I didn't want to talk it anymore. Like, just be quiet.
What types of things do they say or do to you?
All names. But as words.
He often would get into verbal fights with kids. So they would, swear at each other, yell at each other. At times, it was loud enough that everybody could hear it in the school.
His anxieties were just building up in school, where he was exploding, like he said. And he would scratch his face
start crying. He was losing control of himself.
For many children who stutter, the ignorance of teachers and other adults can be more devastating than any taunt by a classmate.
We were at a function at Evans School, and there was a teacher from the junior high that he's going to be going to next year, and the teacher introduced herself, and Evan said, "Hi, my name is Evan," and the teacher said, "Oh, and is Evan going to be going to my school next year?" I was a little taken aback that somebody could be so stupid as to not recognize what was up with him, but she didn't get it.
Everyone would get a paragraph to read. Well, when it was my turn, going down the rows of seats, he reached in his desk and pulled out a stopwatch.
For you?
For me. And said he was giving me so much time, and if I was not done in that amount of time, he would stop me. And I was devastated. I was absolutely devastated.
I remember going to the school there because he got such a low mark in it and saying, like, what is this? Like, all of his marks are so low. She goes, well, he doesn't participate. He doesn't know his math facts. And I says, well, yeah, he does, because I test him on him at home. And I says, he writes them out really fast. And she says, we're not writing them out. We're verbally. And I says, well, he stutters. He can't get out the words the same as somebody else. I says, you look at these marks. And she goes, well, he wouldn't participate in this. It was oral reading. So I took her by the hand and I says, you know, I says, I'm just so thankful that my little retarded son can stay in class for 8 hours a day without having too many problems, because that's exactly how she was treating him.
For someone who stutters, every place and situation that requires speech is a potential minefield. The stutterer is always talking on thin ice. Even Sunday holds no prospect of rest.
I was a kid who enjoyed church. I liked going to church. I liked watching the services and the people. But I dreaded going to confession. That booth over there terrified me. I would enter the booth and it would be absolutely dark, and I'd start stuttering. I felt a lot of guilt over this because as a kid, I used to pray to God every night. And when I came to church on Sunday, I would pray to God to please take away my stutter. But then, while I was praying to God to take away my stutter, I was breaking God's rules by not attending confession. And for a kid, that was hard.
Mitzvah prayer is chanted. It isn't spoken. You know, I thought I could handle that. And I practiced and practiced and practiced. The day comes, the temple is packed. 800 people, 1,000 people. My uncles, my aunts, they're all sitting there, everyone I knew. And I block on the first Baruch. It starts Baruch, and I go. And it could have been a total disaster. And this old right-hand sextant, out of anger, frustration, impatience, or because God had taken over this thing, gives me a whack, boom, in my back. I get the book out, and all of a sudden I'm chanting, Baruch Atah Adonai as I had practiced it at home, and I do the whole thing, page after page, with utter fluency, utter aplomb, just wonderful. So I went through the whole thing in what seemed as if it took 10 seconds, but was actually about 10 minutes of praying in Hebrew.
What you see and hear when I stutter is only the tip of the iceberg. What you don't see is the fear and anxiety below the waterline. When I stutter, I'm constantly anticipating the humiliation I will feel when I lose control of my speech. Voluntary stuttering, or stuttering on purpose, is a technique that allows me to take control of my speech.
Hi, can I take your order?
Could I have a small coffee? Small coffee? Two creams and one sugar?
Hi. Do you need a double cup?
Do I need a
Well, you see if it's too hot for you and you tell me if you need one.
This is a difficult concept to grasp. It's something like learning to control a skidding car. I'll have a double cup. The instinctive reaction is to turn the steering wheel in the opposite direction to the skid. But actually, to regain control, you must turn into the skid. Similarly, the stutterer must steer himself into his stutter. Voluntary stuttering is frightening, but it's a good way to desensitize myself both to my stuttering and to the often unpleasant reactions of my listeners. Excuse me, what? Do you know where Chinatown is?
Somewhere that way.
Most of the behaviors associated with stuttering are triggered by avoidance. When I do voluntary stuttering, I cease to avoid. So much of my fear of stuttering begins to diminish.
Excuse me, sir? Yes.
Could you tell me where Chinatown is?
Chinatown, oh boy, that's not understand.
It's a paradox, but by deliberately stuttering more, I begin to stutter less.
Excuse me?
Could you tell me where Chinatown is? Excuse me? Do you know where Chinatown is? Excuse me, could you tell me where Chinatown is, if I asked you?
I'm not from Winnipeg, so I have
No?
no clue.
Where are you from?
Regina.
You're from Regina. The effect on my speech is both unnerving and liberating. I'll have 2 dozen pierogies, 1 cheddar cheese and potato, and the other potato and onion. Well, I'm going to go with 3 hot Italian and 3 mild Italian. It smells so good that we have a new film technique where you can actually smell what you see. Yeah.
So now that I've embarked on my self-therapy program, where I try to do diaphragmatic breathing, talk slower, do some voluntary stuttering when I think I'm going to stutter, and do cancellations and just easy onset, all these things, and especially the voluntary stuttering, where I can just examine what I'm doing. How do you feel about that? Does it irritate you?
Well, it is irritating because, as you say, talking is like eating. It's part of life. And so in the normal course of living and talking, you're going through some kind of exercise. So you're either stuttering in an unnatural way, like unnatural because I know how you stutter, so it's not natural to me, or you're speaking very loudly like living with a radio broadcaster.
I guess the only thing that I might find irritating is that I know your stutter. It's got like a unique fingerprint, and I'm totally comfortable and used to it. So I guess when you do that voluntary stuttering, it's not your natural like stuttering sound or signature. So maybe that's what I find irritating, because it seems unnatural. So
I talk with you people more than I talk with anybody in the rest of the day. So if I can practice with you, it's a great place to practice. But I can see how, it's like, go take your stuttering and play outside. You know, Sam, that there's no record of any animal stuttering. The sounds that they make are never stuttered sounds. It's because animals use signals. But for humans, words are signs. Signs and signals, Sam. There's a big difference. Stutterers, when they just make sounds, they're fluent. They can go ah, oh, ah, e, r, b, s, d. And if they don't have any meaning, if they don't stand for anything, then the person doesn't stutter. But as soon as they get meaning, then the stuttering begins.
In adolescence, nothing is more charged with meaning than asking someone out on a date. For some stutterers, romance can become a blood sport.
There was a girl I was interested in. It was after class. The two of us were together out in the hallway alone. And this was my moment, and I grabbed it. And I stuttered, and I sputtered, and I jerked, and I twisted, and I kicked, and I squirmed, and I added all of those things, those tricks I had learned that weren't helping me anymore, into this bizarre dance. And just to top it off, I was so out of control that I chomped down mightily on my tongue, stifled the pain, and proceeded with great determination to spit blood all over her as I spat out my few words. The poor gal turned white, and she just disappeared off the scene. And I learned something important. I learned that after all, maybe I really did love watching Hockey Night in Canada every Saturday night with my parents at home.
I was in a record store at one of the malls, and one of the popular boys in the class, the graduating class, spotted me and came up to me and said, you know, I always wanted you to know how attractive I thought you were. And I always wanted to tell you that and spend time with you, but I just couldn't do it.
Why not?
He would have been teased.
How do I love thee? Let me count the ways. But do I have to do it in front of 200 people?
One of my biggest speaking regrets was at our wedding reception, where I had to make a speech. Here I am, and that up to then was the happiest day of my life. And all I could think about was me and my speech. I have to make this speech in front of all these people. And I went up there and I made a few sort of apologetic lines, apologizing for my difficulties. I was afraid that somehow I would spoil things for you, or spoil things for your family. That somehow it would appear that Marilyn married down by having this guy stuttering.
Well, you were so stressed. I really wondered if you were going to make it, like, I thought you might even have a small stroke or something, really, because you were just vibrating.
And I felt so bad. I said, why am I terrified? I'm so supposed to be happy. I should just relax. And so I stutter. It's like, who cares? Stuttering boy is getting married. Like, who cares? And so I really regret that. I chickened out on my wedding day.
There's nothing I would rather do less on a pleasant afternoon than subject myself and total strangers to the equivalent of public vomiting. But that's what I've been doing for several months now.
Could I ask you guys a question?
Sure. Okay.
When I started stuttering, you seemed to be surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah? So what was going through your mind when I was stuttering severely?
I don't know. Try not to laugh. Okay, that's mean.
Yeah,
But
is right. Did you have a tendency to laugh?
yeah.
Yeah?
I feel like I've lost a lot of the shame and hatred that I've always felt for my speech. And my fluency has improved quite noticeably.
Excuse me? Do you know anything about stuttering?
Stuttering?
Stuttering, when somebody talks like, ha 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 ha, how are you? Or have repetitions like that. Yeah.
I've never known anybody speak like this.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I stutter.
Oh.
I stutter, but I
don't feel it.
You don't feel my stuttering?
Yeah.
Yeah.
After half a century of stuttering, I'm under no illusion that my stutter will ever be eliminated. Therapy requires a lot of time and effort. For every 2 steps forward, I take 1 step back. My speech continues to vary from hour to hour, person to person, and situation to situation.
Hey, John.
Hey, Paula, how you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Okay, I just have come to spend my hard-earned cash on gasoline. How much is it now?
103.9. When did it go down? I don't know. Merci.
Yeah, man.
Anything else for you tonight?
You know, it's nice to be served in both of Canada's official languages, Paul.
Thank you.
I have good days
With the pictures
and some days that are not so good.
I really didn't want to be in the film business. I had no major aspiration to be in the film business. At that time, I was a still photographer, and
But nowadays, when I do stutter, I try not to beat myself up over it. I've stopped looking at my speech as a performance, where I'm constantly being reviewed by my audience.
Now, I try not to think about a hard situation, because in my mind, that makes you ready for failure. When I look at a situation, well, if I have to order food, every time I order food, I'm gonna be thinking, okay, this is one of my situations. I don't think about it like that anymore. I just think I can talk to anybody, anywhere, any place, anytime. If I'm a stutter, yeah, I probably will stutter. I'm pretty sure I'm a stutter again, but I'll live and I'll make it through it.
The response to therapy can be as variable and confusing as stuttering itself. Because something works for one person doesn't mean it will work for another.
Therapy has been so helpful in just helping me stop, take control, and do the right things to maintain control.
I had come out of the Precision Fluency Shaping Program in New York City. And at the end of that, they had us do 300 telephone calls. And you do 300 telephones. Do you have any basketballs? And you do all these calls and do all this stuff on there. And the people hang up on you because you don't sound normal at all. And your speech pathologist keeps saying, you sound great. You sound marvelous. And you're going, I sound like a goober.
The psychological framework that supported my stutter for more than 50 years, I had to dismantle. And the way in which I dismantled it, yes, I had the support of the program, but the way in which I dismantled it, and I was encouraged to go out and expand my comfort zones. To do the things I always thought I couldn't do. To prove to myself that I could face the fear. The only way to overcome a fear is to face it head on. If you run away from it, you avoid the fear of speaking, of saying certain words, the fear of speaking in certain situations will multiply and multiply. So you've got to face it head on, and that's exactly what I did.
I've had all this speech therapy. I had precision fluency. I had Schwartz's airflow. I was taught to prolong, full breath, whatnot. I've had all that stuff, and I flunked it. F in therapy. But in the stuff about self-esteem and attitude and identity and being open, I don't think I'm an A student at that, but I've passed, and it's had a huge impact on me.
The uncertain results of mainstream therapy lead many stutterers to try more unorthodox methods. One survey counted over 100 different therapies in California alone.
And by no means am I an expert in it. I'm still learning it. But once it's in your mouth, you smile and you say an S sound to get your tongue in the natural position. And the ultimate goal is for a person to be able to speak just as naturally with their thumb in their mouth as if they were to take it away.
When you talk, your larynx stimulates in the back of your neck, the bones in the back of your neck and your head. And that this creates a vibration that enables you better to hear sounds you are making.
When A, E, I, O, U,
And then even when I'm opening my mouth, I'm still ensuring that the vibration is happening in the back of my throat, and that I'm maintaining the posture and the breathing from the diaphragm.
I don't feel safe practicing anywhere. I do it mostly in isolation, even at times if I'm, I may go into a washroom stall or anywhere where I can get a little privacy and do it.
If I'm really rigorous with that practicing every day, it can benefit my speech as well as any other therapy.
Anything that alters the sound of a stutterer's voice increases fluency.
Hi, Anita, I was wondering if you can autograph this poster. I would first like you to meet my wife. This is Marilyn McKinnon.
Hi, it's nice
This
to meet
is
you.
Anita Lebeau, the filmmaker.
When I'm speaking in a loud environment, for example, where I can't hear the sound of my own voice, my fluency improves. The same thing happens when stutterers speak in accents, when they speak in chorus, or when they whisper, or shout, or sing.
Shouting or whispering, I can generally be fluent.
Would you like to have a whispering conversation? See how long we can sustain it?
Fine. Okay.
Is that right?
We'll try that.
Okay, so what is the population of Bristol?
I've got absolutely no idea.
You have no idea?
I couldn't tell you.
Can you give me an estimate, Chris?
It will be way off, but I'd say 400,000.
400,000? Oh. Yeah, so let's yell at one another. But let's, once again, I'm going to ask you what the population of Bristol is. Does anybody know?
I've got absolutely no idea at all. I couldn't tell you, I'm afraid.
Chris, do you have any idea?
I'm going to say around 400,000.
That many? I
Yes.
can't believe it.
Almost 500,000.
Wow.
I give speeches to a bunch of people who students mainly. I will launch into 99 bottles of beer on the wall, 99 bottles of beer. If one of those bottles should happen to fall, 98 bottles of beer on the wall, 98 bottles of beer on the wall, 98 bottles of beer, and I'll rip off my shirt, and there's my shirt that says, "No, damn it, I don't stutter when I sing."
Delay is about 55 milliseconds, so you'll slow down a little bit. I'm going to turn the pitch.
David Kehoe, a fellow stutterer, makes so-called DAF machines, delayed auditory feedback devices.
Yeah, you can adjust.
By playing back my voice with a slight delay and a change in pitch, my fluency improves dramatically.
This will make you talk a little bit slower, as slow normal speaking rate.
Hello, my name is John Paskievich. I live in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, and I feel odd but fluent.
Your speech sounds very good. You're completely fluent. You're speaking right a little bit slower than normal, but very understandable. And I heard your pitch drop.
Yeah, and I find that with the pitch being this low, it tends to relax me. Relaxes my vocal cords, my diaphragm, and I want to relax and talk, and I feel like I'm on the beach or something. It's a nice feeling. Dr. Joe Kalinowski of East Carolina University in the United States believes that delayed auditory feedback works because it mimics the effects of choral speech.
For example, the time I was in church as a kid, and I was saying, "Our Father," I was totally fluent. But as soon as I was going up to receive communion, I couldn't say amen. Couldn't say amen. I'd go, amen. So I knew if two people talked at the same time, I could be totally fluent. So Andy and I thought of a fluency aid that allowed people to hear themselves talking at the same time.
Okay, that one's not fitted for your ear, but it's not a bad fit.
Uh-huh. Hi, girls. Can I ask you some questions? Sure. Yes? So what faculty are you girls in?
Faculty.
Faculty. We're from Canada.
Oh.
And so maybe you don't use the word faculty. Which department?
Oh. Nursing? Nursing.
You're all in nursing?
No. We're in nursing.
I'm undecided.
You're undecided? Uh-huh.
Merchandising.
You're in merchandising? And is your friend on the phone? We're doing a documentary on stuttering. Have you noticed any stuttering while I'm talking to you? No. Yeah. No stuttering.
No.
I stutter, but I've got this little device in my ear which helps me not to stutter. And this device was developed right here at East Carolina University campus. Yeah, so I'm gonna just take it out here, and we'll see if my speech changes. and just as soon as I take it out, I start talking. Pardon me? I'm not pulling your leg.
Did you just get that, or did you?
Yeah, I just got that about an hour ago.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
You like it?
I like it.
So how did it feel to be fluent?
It was, as Andrew likes to say, sweet. It was a sweet feeling. The albatross that was around my neck for most of my life, it felt like it just spread its wings and flew away. I was free.
So is this a permanent cure, or is it going to wear off over time and you'll become immune to it?
Well, first of all, as I told you before, there's no cure for stuttering. This device is an aid. For some people, the effect wears off, and for others, it doesn't. And up to now, there haven't been any so-called longitudinal studies where they follow a large group of stutterers over a long period of time to see if the effect holds or it wears off.
If you're buying it to think that it's your cure like that, like pop this thing in and you'll be fluent forever. Sorry, no.
Were there people who were disappointed that it wasn't a real cure?
I think that there were a lot of people who thought that it would be.
So you felt like you let them down or something? You know, they had high expectations for you. We wished you luck.
Yeah.
You came back. You're talking real good. Wow, Ian.
Wow, that's great.
Ian.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal. Wow, it's a shame you hadn't bought that in grade 9. Like, yeah, wow. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then so it's like, oh, Ian, what happened? It worked the first month. Why does it not work now? What has failed? Yeah. What has failed?
So the failing's probably with you.
Well, yeah.
That's the implication.
Exactly. What went wrong?
Yeah. While continuing my research, I've come across a website by Daryl Dodge, a speech pathologist and stutterer in Colorado. For me, Dodge's theories are a revelation. According to Dodge, the culprit which precipitates and perpetuates stuttering is the brain's amygdala, a neural mechanism whose function is to protect us from threat.
The amygdala, which is not...
Dodge believes that in stutterers, the amygdala is overactive.
The linkage there would be the freeze response that we actually notice in all animals, starting with birds. I don't know if you've ever gone past past a nest of birds, and the birds will freeze, the mother will fly away, and the birds will freeze and stop actually making any noise. They'll just quiet right down. If the brain speech-language areas have been inhibited in one way or another, and the child goes ahead and tries speaking anyway, there's going to be a problem of one kind or another. we try to push, we try to, you know, struggle to get words out. Little children, you actually will notice a few of them trying to pull words out of their mouth. Mommy, it won't come out, it's stuck in there, you know.
And when a child is having problems, other people will react to it. The child with his or her amygdala is also reading faces. Mm-hmm. And these faces are responding negatively. Mm-hmm. So these little events are traumatic events. Each bad memory is stored in the amygdala, mm-hmm. and you can't wipe it out.
If you bring up any part of a conditioned memory, it will automatically bring up all of the other parts. In other words, a little bit of tension in the throat brings up the memory of jaw tremors, brings up the memory of trying to control them, and the feeling of trying to control them, which is probably unpleasant as well.
All therapies, when you think about it, whether it's just talking slowly, mm-hmm. breathing in a certain way, or else doing voluntary stuttering, they're all ways of not having you react to your speech. Most stutterers, when they are alone or in a safe environment, speak fluently.
Pain.
Because there are no threats,
Deep.
there is no reason for the amygdala to react.
Positive. Please pour me some pineapple juice. Those people are playing politics on the issue. He only pecked at the pumpkin pie.
But outside the safe environment, the amygdala kicks in and all past traumatic memories overwhelm the stutterer.
What flavor, McFlurries do you have?
McFlurries?
What flavor do you
We
have?
don't have any McFlurries right now because the ice cream machine is
Okay,
open.
okay.
Do you want a milkshake instead?
Sure. What flavors do you have?
Strawberry, vanilla, and blueberry.
Can I please get a large chocolate one, please?
Large strawberry?
No. Chocolate, please. Chocolate, please.
We are communicating animals, and if we can't communicate, we will die, literally. That's how important it is. And any threat to that speech mechanism, to our ability to communicate our intent, our needs, our wants, is very, very much of a threat to human beings. And that really explained to me why stuttering developed.
Well, this is where the amygdala kicks in. Like when I'm looking at this Amur tiger there, if I come face to face with him or you'd come face to face with him, you would either fight or run, or else you just freeze and be eaten. Stuttering, unlike many other disorders, is not something that can be worked on in isolation. Speech involves other people. It takes two to stutter. To a large degree, I can now manage my stuttering, but something I cannot control is the reaction of my listeners. It's hard for a stutterer to get over stuttering, but it's also hard for the listener. They're in some ways more disabled about stuttering than the stutterer.
Yeah, I've had a few people who've asked me if your stuttering is improving. And I always want to laugh and say, yeah, he's getting really good at it.
Yeah, he's...
He used to just sort of stutter, now he really knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he can stutter, you know, morning, noon, and night.
People really are just uncomfortable because they don't know what they're supposed to do. They're not sure what's happening, and then they're not sure what they're supposed to do.
Yeah. There's also a kind of a moral judgment there that somehow, you know, I should be over my stuttering.
Yeah, I think the question is, are you more comfortable with your stuttering?
I'm not going to get over my stuttering. So you know what? Society, the media should.
get over stuttering as much as the stutter. In fact, the media and society should get over stuttering period. And but I'm going to go on the radio next week, and I'm going to stutter. I'm just going to stutter the way I am with spontaneity, so that the listeners can hear me stuttering, and I'm going to have a good time.
Great.
I just want to be, the guy who stutters and is on the radio. Hi, I'm here to see Susan Magus from the show Questionnaire.
Good afternoon, I'm Susan Magus. Welcome to Questionnaire, CBC Manitoba's countrywide call-in show. It affects 1% of Canada's population and 4% of our young children. Stuttering is something children often outgrow, but others end up carrying the disorder into adulthood. Today on Questionnaire, we ask you, why do people stutter? And with me in the studio to kick off the show, we have John Paskievich. And John describes himself as a stutterer. And he phoned me a couple of weeks ago and said, I'm making a film about stuttering. And we talked a bit about it and decided that it was a good idea that we talk about this on the radio. Thank you for coming in today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Now, I'd like to start off with this project of yours.
Well, what I often found is that I spooked people such as yourself, people who work in radio and television, because as you know, people who work in radio and television hate dead air. It kind of dawned on me that stuttering is probably the last stigma.
So what do you hope to accomplish with this film?
I hope to make a good film that would educate and bring out stuttering out into the open. And look, I'm on the air. I'm stuttering. It's not so bad, and I'm sure after the show, the CBC ratings will hit the roof.
Won't you tell me who's to blame for my stutter speech? Some say genetic, others say it's caused by hectic lifestyle. Forget it. Nobody understands the true meaning. Give me books and videos. See, I find myself screaming for answers. It seems I cannot find by myself. So I found Dr. Healy and begged for his help. Pain in my heart, sometimes I gotta let go. And if you listen real close, you might hear my crushed soul. Now they wanna know what a block feels like. It's like in the middle of your sentence, somebody grabs your windpipe. Your jaw locks, you can't breathe, your head spun out. All this madness causes more words you're trying to pronounce. In the early days, when people had problems, it didn't seem normal. They called them curses because they had no answers for them. That's what this is, my own true curse. When I look in the mirror, I tell him it hurts. I want to show the world I stutter, but I know what you say. So when we have conversations, sometimes I look away. I don't want to see your reaction on the way that I look. And the pain you feel right now, hard to put in the book. Sometimes I stutter hard, y'all, right from the very beginning. I know what I'm gonna say. You don't have to finish my sentence. I stand before you with ease. Don't let it fool my stutter for the rest of my life. I'm scared of my future. This is the way that I talk. I can't help who I am. And if I could, y'all, I wouldn't change who I am. Now, if you've never stuttered, you may not understand. I hate the man in the mirror. Now I accept who I am. This is the way that I talk. I can't help who I am. And if I could, y'all, I wouldn't change who I am. Now, if you've never stuttered, you may not understand.